Tip of the spear. Tip of the spear. Tip of the spear. Right here at home. We hung up the uniform in the closet. Boots hit on different ground, but we still feel the war. Silence gets heavy, stories stay locked tight till a few voices linked up and stepped into the light. Just a spark in the dark and a leap of faith. No scripts, no filters, just truth from the heart. From back porch talks to a growing command. Brothers and sisters still taking a stand. Yeah, the mission didn't end when we walked away. We just found a new fight, a different way. We're the tip of the spear, so cutting it clear. Different battlefield now, but the purpose is here. From the mic to the message, yeah, we're making it known. The fight didn't stop, we just brought it back home. No red tape, no lies, just truth in the tone. We're the tip of the spear, right here at home. Right here at home. Home front, sit breath, calling on deck, triple threat vets, bringing heat, earning that respect. The Mr. Nation is loud, breaking down the walls. I am pit standing tall when the system stalls. Voices like bird, yeah, lifting it higher. Wells bringing truth with the firefighters fire. Tim breathing life when the weight gets deep. Philippa speaking strength for the souls we keep. Gene telling stories that don't make the news, but they hit like rounds cause they're real and true. No headlines needed, no spotlight fame, just warriors talking through the pain. We're the tip of the spear, still cutting it clear. Different battlefield now, but the purpose is here. From the mic to the message, we're making it known. The fight didn't stop, we just brought it back home. No red tape, no lies, just truth in the tone. We're the tip of the spear, right here at home. Right here at, right. Yeah, it's mental scars, it's the sleepless nights, it's the fight for purpose, it's reclaiming life, it's policy talk in the world outside, it's the war within that we don't let hide. It's a brother saying, hey, I've been there too. It's the sister standing strong, saying we'll get through. It's connection, it's mission, it's voices aligned, a force multiplier for the ones left behind. No fluff, no filter, just real ones, speaking truth. We're the tip of the spear, yeah, we carry it on. Different kind of fight, but the fire's still strong. From the past to the present, yeah, we're bridging the divide. Still serving together, standing side by side. This ain't just a podcast, it's a battle cry tone. We're the tip of the spear, right here at home. So if you're out there searching, trying to find your place, pull up a seat. You're not alone.
Welcome everybody to Tip of the Spear. How is everybody doing? Let's start with you, Rich. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Just getting cookies out of my mouth, but I'm good right now.
Nice. I'm gonna throw myself up here. All right, Theory. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Doing good.
Awesome.
On this, Wednesday.
Awesome. Heck yeah. Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, welcome. I'm gonna introduce Michael to you guys here in just a minute once we get through the introduction here. Mr. Ty Cobb, how are you, sir?
Doing well, man. I felt like I was watching a WWE '90s entrance song.
Yeah, what'd y'all think about that new intro song?
I liked it. I like that AI stuff you're doing, man.
Yeah, it took me a little while. Like I went in and like it created the lyrics and stuff like I wanted it to, but then as I was reading it, I was like, man, they don't even sound human. So I had to go in and edit. So it is what it is.
You do it.
Yeah,
with
I heard Triple Threat Vet in there somewhere, and then I heard someone tells the stories that you don't see on the news. But yeah. I have to listen to them more. It's pretty cool, man.
Well, appreciate it. What'd you say, Theory?
Did you do it with Suno?
Well, so yes, the music is Suno. So what I do is I go into Chat GPT, give it an idea of what I want. Like I took like if you go up here and click on one of the destinations, there's a description of what the episode's about. I just threw that into Chat GPT, said write a song about this, and it did. And then I went in and I edited it to make it sound more human because AI don't let it sound human. And then I threw it into Suno, and then I typed in what I wanted, like new metal. So I did a new metal with hip hop infusion, a whole list of other
Yeah.
commands to go in there to make it sound like it does. So
Yeah. Sounds good.
Travis, how are you,
All right.
Travis?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Good to be here.
Awesome, awesome. I know you definitely got something we're going to hit on here in just a little bit.
Sure.
Marie, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm a month post-op, had to get a hysterectomy, and so it's been a journey, but I am doing much better now, and I'm here and wanting to fellowship with you guys. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're doing way better, and glad that you're back here on in the tip of the spear fold with us. All right. Let's see. Do you want to start off with that, Travis?
Well, I want to introduce Michael first.
Oh yeah, let's introduce Michael first. All right. So Michael D'Angelo is a Marine Corps veteran. He's based out in. You're not in California? You're in Nevada, right?
I'm from Vegas, but I'm living in LA right now.
So he's in LA. He created the Rapid Fire Comedy Tour. So Michael, introduce yourself a little bit, brother, if you don't mind.
What's up, guys? Yeah, my name's Michael D'Angelo, Marine vet, comic. Out here in LA, just trying to get better out here amongst these incredible comics that are living out here in the city. I've been out here about 9 years. When I first moved out here, I started a military tour because I wanted to perform for the military, but all the groups that were already doing it, USO, Armed Forces Entertainment, all those guys, they kind of had their club already, weren't interested in pulling me in. So I started my own thing, and I sent like 400 letters out to Marine Corps units being like, hey, I'm a Marine, I'm a comic, I'll come perform for you guys anytime, any place. And kind of kicked off, started my own tour, and now I do shows for military, first responders, anywhere anybody wants me to come. I got all the equipment. I don't even need power. I got it all. And turned it into a nonprofit. Now we're just like looking for sponsors and donors and shit like that. We try to keep that's another thing. We try to keep all the shows free because you start trying to get budgeting from the Marine Corps and things come to a standstill. So just easier to keep things free. But that's what I do, man. I'm just a comic out here working 6 other jobs in LA so I can keep chasing the dream.
Yeah, that's the way it always happens for sure. Go on TikTok and follow him on TikTok, and you can see a bunch of his jokes and stuff are there. Any social media, go follow the Rapid Fire Comedy Tour. And man, I tell you what, he is a good interview. So all you fellow podcasters here, if Michael, you can put your email address in the private chat.
Yeah, I will.
That way they can copy it and reach out to you to get you on their show.
Yeah, and Michael, could you put your TikTok handle on the private chat too, or public chat? Don't matter. I just want to. I want to make sure I can go follow you.
All right. So last tip of the spear, we talked about the JJ Millett situation up in Vermont. Travis has done a couple episodes. Travis, do you want to talk about that real quick?
Sure. So I've done 4 interviews with the 5th one on the way about, JJ and the situation. The situation was JJ served in the National Guard for Vermont in a combat MOS. Got out like 2016, became a correctional officer, but fought and is, in the midst of dealing with PTSD and depression. And he is in VA care, so he's, rated. And for whatever reason, in January, his VA doctors changed his medication. And mid-February, he started going into a bad place. He was hearing voices tell him to do stuff. And February 19th, the voices were telling him to unalive himself and to hurt other people. And he called the 988 crisis line to say, hey, I don't want to do this. The 9/11 crisis line, they're mandated reporters, so they contacted the Vermont State Police. The police contacted JJ and got him to drive to the Vermont barracks where he is. He's in northern Vermont. Turn himself in, surrender his firearm, surrender his pocket knife, and go back into VA care. While he's in VA care, getting his meds adjusted, his apartment was searched, and the prosecutor, Farzana Lavia, decided to press domestic terrorism charges against JJ because he said that he wanted to hurt people, and he had what she believed things in his journals, which she called manifestos, which in turn the judge forced her to drop and refer to them as mandated health journals. And now he's facing charges. And the thing is, this isn't like hey, it's 3 years and 18 months on probation. Sentencing guidelines for this is 20 years. Minimum sentencing guidelines is 20 years for this. He'll be 58 years old if he goes to jail. So
Jesus Christ.
his family reached out to me, and I'm like, okay, this is where there's smoke, there's fire. But looking at the chronology of the case and what's going on here, it's like, well, Vermont, unlike, I don't know how about your states, but like Massachusetts, Tennessee, Texas, Louisiana, about 25 states have veterans courts. He's being charged in the normal civilian court for this. They're not taking his veteran status in consideration at all. But what's happened is the original prosecutor has dropped from the case because Derby, Vermont, where he's from, is about 4,500 people. The townspeople have been writing and calling the attorney's office saying, hey, this is wrong, this is bad, he's a good guy. And so talking to his cousin, who coincidentally is employed by the Department of Homeland Security and teaches at the University of Albany, New York, broke it down to me in that show. Like he has no prior convictions at all, not so much as a parking ticket, no misdemeanors, no felonies. He's not on any domestic terrorist watch list. He's on nobody's flag for being domestic terrorist at all. So her thing is like, hey, there's no intent for him to be this way. The medicine has to be brought into consideration. So what is happening now today, which is a big deal, he was released a month ago into his sister's care. And during that time, he has followed all court-mandated orders, not stepped out of line, did exactly what he's supposed to do. And today, the judge over this remanded him into his own care, his own recognizance. So he's allowed to go home for the first time in 6 weeks. And I have it on a post, but the judge writes an opinion saying, hey, this appears to be a strange situation, but I can't give veterans preference. He will stand trial. There's potential that he could go to jail because if I drop this without the law working, then veterans will get favoritism. And then he writes, coincidentally, the prosecution should be aware that the outcome they're looking for might not happen in a jury trial. And my thing is, looking at this and talking with other lawyers about this, is yet the legal process has to work. Justice is blind. Okay, I get that. But also, it's like, hey, this is somebody who tried to do the right thing and is alive because he called the 988 crisis line. And, if you watch the fourth one I did with a guy he served with, Chad Abbott, Chad's very clear. He's like, I will never call the 988 crisis line again. I will never keep a journal ever again. If I know that if I call for help, I could go to jail. And the scary thing is, there's if this case goes all the way and he winds up going to jail, which I don't see how, but it could happen. It's going to set precedent for the other 50 states to look at how they treat veterans who are in this situation. And the thing is, veterans are on the FBI's, when the FBI does a profile for domestic terrorism, guess what? All of us fit the profile to be a low-grade domestic terrorist. We all do. We don't like being told what to do. We have training to deal with, firearms and weapons. We understand how the government works. So for me at this point, now that he's at home, I'm going to write him a letter and tell his sister wants people to write letters to him, and the family has other people wanting to talk with me about this. I guess in closing, two things. A lot of three-letter agencies that we all know in the veteran space are sympathetic, but because this is a criminal case, they will not offer help, aid, an opinion, or support until the case is concluded. Then they'll weigh in. So where does that lead me? The funny thing is, in 2018, when this law was drafted, this domestic terrorism law for Vermont was drafted, the ACLU told them in Vermont that, hey, you're going to have problems with this. They did it again in 2023. And while I'm not a huge fan of the ACLU for a lot of reasons, this to me is a tailor-made situation to get the ACLU involved with. So I'm looking at doing that. And also, I need to understand why the VA isn't like all over this. Grant, yes, it is a criminal case, but he was in VA care, subscribed VA meds, which he took. He was compliant with treatment. They got to own their part in this. And I'm going to find out why or what the VA is doing or can do about this. Because again, why would you go to VA care and allow them to prescribe you medicine if you could potentially go to jail? So, I get either, well, there's something nefarious going on, and I think you're just a little too emotional, Travis, or it's like, dang, the chain of events, the law is, if there's no real intent for domestic terrorism, the whole case falls apart. And it just appears like this prosecutor thought she could get an easy win and didn't realize that half the state and other people now are saying, no freaking way, man, not on our watch. So there's more interviews coming. There's more talks coming. And, the idea is to let the family know that he's supported, but also that, hey, we don't want this to happen to another veteran.
So the original prosecutor, the one that brought the charges on JJ, has resigned.
She's resigned from the case. She's no longer the lead prosecutor. Yes. Farzana Levia, Levya, has removed herself from the case.
And this,
why?
We didn't get a reason why. I don't have a documented reason why. His family and his lawyer believes that she found out the hard way that this wasn't going to be just an easy, walk this through to court and get this guy in jail.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That is an estimation, not fact. I do not know that for sure.
Yeah. So if she had dropped it, like if she dropped from the case, then she should have dropped charges right then and there. I mean, honestly, that's what I'm thinking. But I agree with Mr. Abbott, where I'll never call 988 ever will I ever call 988. I'd rather call Theory or Ty or you or Rich or Marie or whoever before I call 988 if I'm at that point. Now I do therapy, like I have therapy. I went through community care and got a therapist outside of the VA, but guess what? He's still part of the VA because he's part of that system, right? And I'm still, when I go in there and I talk to him, I'm still very limited on what I say to him, and I watch my P's and Q's because I'm afraid that if I go in there and really tell him how I feel some days, that they'll put me in friggin' psych code for 72 hours, and then they'll come take my handguns and my everything else from me. And it's just like, all right, so it's still detrimental to myself because there are days where there is a small echo. I don't know who doesn't have headphones on, but there is a small echo coming from somewhere. There are days where like my brain is so scattered. I'm like, man, I need to reach out and talk to somebody. But thankfully I have a tribe. And right here, this thing Gunny and I talk about it on a home front sit up rep all the time. This is my tribe. I have over 2,000 contacts in my phone that I know I can reach out to 99% of them and say, hey, man, this is what I got going on, rather than calling 988 and dealing with that, because you never know if you're going to get a veteran on the other end, or you're going to get some civilian that don't have any veterans in their family, and they don't know how to respond to what I'm saying, what's coming out of my mouth. So
Can
I'm
can I say something? Do you
sure.
mind? So I'm going to kind of play a devil's advocate just a little bit. I know that these situations happen. These situations are really shitty. It is really shitty that it happens, but it is not the norm. And so my own personal view is 988 has saved my life multiple times. And the reality is, yes, some of us are sicker than others, right? And the 988 is completely and utterly all volunteers. And you've got some people that aren't trained like others, but you also have people who genuinely have real concerns. You know what I mean? And so I don't think that we can blame 988 as a whole. I think that even that the person who reached out for help, like, or the person who reported or whatnot, I don't think that that was a bad thing, because the reality is there are people who will move forward with those threats. And these people are being most careful that they can, because if somebody does end up killing themselves or they hurt someone else, there's going to be a whole backtrack of what happened there. And so people are going to find out what they called 988. Okay, they didn't take this threat seriously. And now the people at 988 are getting in trouble. And so the thing is,
I have no problem with 988 calling the Vermont State
yeah,
Police, none whatsoever. In fact, the controls and checks and balances worked. He's still alive.
yes. And I
So
think that's
98 did what they're supposed to do. I mean, people don't like calling it, but fine. The Vermont State Police didn't send a SWAT team to take him down and escalate the situation. Come on
I
down.
think where the issue I think where the issue lied was that chick that was trying to take over and trying to extend her boundaries. And I wanted to share, um, based on that, I just had a friend who went through something very similar. Like, very similar. He got arrested because he had some stuff. He was triggered back into his PTSD, and he thought the cartel was coming out to get him, and he was protecting himself. And there was a
Mm,
road rage incident where he showed his gun and said, "Yo, back off." And then he drove away out off of the initial situation to go call the cops. Somebody had already called the cops, thought that he was running, and he actually went and parked at a church and called the cops to let them know what was going on, but the cops had already started following him. And then they
mm,
searched his vehicle and found some stuff that he had in there, and he was not in a good place. He was protecting himself, right? He ends up getting arrested. They try to tell him that he has to plead guilty for 70 felony charges. 70 felony charges because of
what?
what he had. Yes, yeah. And they went through this whole investigation. He was stuck in jail for, I think, 6 to 8 months. And it was the most ridiculous thing, because they kept trying to say, "Oh, we'll let you out if you plead guilty. We'll let you out if you plead guilty." And there was like so much hell. He ended up having to plead guilty to one, I think it was one felony charge. I don't know all the details with it, but they finally let him out. But this entire time he was in for 6 to 8 months, I can't remember exactly, not once did they have a mental health professional go in and talk to him.
Mm,
We had people here at the state fighting to get him into a PTSD program, because we're like, "Hey, you don't understand what's actually going on. Like, this is not a fucking terrorist. This is a guy who is traumatized and needing help." They finally let him out because he went into a facility, but even then, the VA still hasn't sent him to a PTSD program.
mm,
And it was the most ridiculous thing. And so I think that where it lies, I know some people are scared to get help, right? And I get that, but I think where there's a lot that is going on behind the scenes. And so that the only I know, Travis, that you weren't saying 988 is bad, and I know, Willis, you're not necessarily saying 988 is bad, but I just want to put out there, if you need help, reach out for help. And if something happens, it sucks that sometimes, and I think that things need to be fixed. I
yeah,
think that they need to be fixed, but please don't be scared to still ask for help, because the reality is God can't help the person you're pretending to be, and neither can a doctor.
Right.
And so if you are not being honest about what's going on, if you're not being honest to your therapist, if you're not calling 988, if you're not seeking the help, you're not going to get fucking help if
Yeah.
you don't actually reach out. So that's all I'm saying is I
Sure.
know that there is some sort of disconnect and there's people that are going beyond their scope of practice. But please, if you're struggling, reach out because that program has helped me a
All right,
lot.
so we got a couple questions real quick. So on TikTok, we the people veteran asked, arrested for what? What did he have?
So
So
he
I
got.
don't
Oh, I'm
are
sorry. For you.
sorry, are you
For you,
talking to
yeah.
me or to Travis?
You,
To me.
Marie.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know 100% all the details. I can talk to him about it, but so he had his weapon and he had some devices that he had created.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, okay.
And so, like I
So
said, I don't know all the details, but it wasn't to go out and do a terrorist. He literally thought that the cartel was out to get him, and he was trying to protect himself.
okay, so he had a road rage incident where he pulled his gun, drove
Well,
off from there.
these people that had been in his apartment had threatened him in the past, and they followed him. And he was like, "Okay, I'm not going to do this anymore." And he stopped and he pulled out his gun and said, "Yo, back off." And then he drove away from the incident. Once they finally like backed off, like they drove away, he drove away, went to a church. And because that happened, they thought that the cops thought he was fleeing the scene, even though he was just trying to get out of the situation. And he was actually on the phone with
Mm,
the police trying to report what happened. But this officer arrested him, and because he had his gun, they went ahead and searched his vehicle, and he was on his way to the range. And so he had multiple vehicles, and then he had these devices that he had created to protect himself.
oh, dang. And then Chris Elder, Senior Chief Elder, says, "What state is there a veteran court?"
So here is the issue. So it's here in Utah, and they took like 6 months to get him into veteran court. We actually had people
Mm,
at the VA trying to fight for him. I actually have a friend who works in grassroots, and she was trying to get him an advocate. And we had people at the VA trying to get him an advocate, but somebody was not letting him get into veterans court.
mm,
Yeah.
gotta love it.
I
Yeah.
think that
Gotcha.
the grand scheme of things with both of these incidents, the overall consensus for maybe not for us because we have more of an understanding, as far as what 988 can actually do. You call and obviously, we always preach it to each other. If you need help, call the suicide hotline. So on and so forth. Or sorry if you can't say that word. Um, but the hotline, call 988, seek help. We preach it constantly, especially to our veteran community, right? And that's great. And I again don't have any problem either with 988, but I think that the general idea is because of more so Travis's incident with the gentleman that he was speaking about, it's going to deter veterans in the future from wanting to call 988 and
Yeah.
seek that help because they're going to think that, oh, well, it happened to this person. And if they're in a state that doesn't have a veteran court, they're screwed. So, they don't want to take that responsibility, and that can so it's kind of a weird position, I guess, to put the VA in. And like, I know Travis, you had mentioned, you don't know why the VA is not necessarily getting involved, and I think that they totally should because they definitely had a part to play in that with the medicine that they issued him, and he abided by his medical instruction, and that was great. But as we know, the VA kind of sometimes likes to wash their hands of certain things, and
Yeah.
sadly, and the Department of Veterans Affairs needs to do a better job at taking care of veterans and taking responsibility for things. Hence the whole thing with the disability and going to the medication, and instead of trying to get veterans to want to claim their disabilities and claim these things that are going on with them, they're going to go about it a different way and make it harder for you to get compensation for these injuries that you sustain. So it goes hand in hand with really everything that's going on with the VA, and I just think it's a bad look because it can deter those veterans who are having those mental illnesses and having those mental troubles and those depressive moods and those anxiety, all the anxiety and stress and things that make you want to get to that point where you feel like unaliving yourself or hurting somebody else, and you call for help, and you think in the back of your head, is this going to put me in jail, or is this going to affect the people that I love? Like, what if they have kids? This is going to affect my children when they got to come visit me through 6-inch glass for the next 18 months or however long. And it can deter a lot of people from wanting to call, which can unfortunately potentially increase that rate of the 22 a day. And it's a sad reality, but like I agree with Marie. I think that the VA just needs to do better to try and get everything and everyone taken care of.
Right. So if you notice scrolling down on the bottom of the screen, there's objectivezero.org. This is a nonprofit that has an app, so you can download the Objective Zero app. They also have a crisis line. Now, the cool thing about this crisis line is if you're a Marine and you want to speak to another Marine, you can narrow it down by branch, MOS, male, female, whoever you want to speak to. You can narrow it down to that, and they have a whole slew of volunteers that are veterans. I think 100% of them are veterans. There's no civilians there. But check out objectivezero.org. And then there's a couple more questions here on TikTok as well. So the first question was, so could there be legislation passed for veterans and first responders? Like what I think what they're getting at is like for when you get arrested as a veteran or a first responder, that you automatically do a psych eval. Like, so legislation passed to have like a psych eval completed upon being arrested. And if you
I think they should require that, especially for veterans and first responders, because 99%, I'm just making that's just a number I just pulled out. But more often than not, the criminal action is based out of a PTSD response.
yeah.
And I think that should be completely and utterly a requirement. So yes, if you know anybody who is involved in legislation, let's get something like that on the books, because that would be phenomenal.
And then also it says also was the guy diagnosed with PTSD through the VA prior. So with Travis situation, the one that got arrested in Vermont, he was already diagnosed with PTSD. And that Marie was your guy already diagnosed. So both of
Oh
the
yeah,
guys,
100% disability. He had been deployed multiple times, and yeah, he had his PTSD diagnosis well before this.
Now, I actually have a interesting question. So, as far as PTSD can range very, very widely, right? Because
yeah,
you can be rated, at the VA for PTSD for like without going to a combat zone, right? You can
yes.
get that rating. So, do you guys think that that could at all affect that legislation if such a legislation were to be passed? Do you think that that could be something that they would take into consideration when they do a quote unquote psych eval for this veteran or first responder who was arrested for whatever the situation was, and they go to do that psych eval, and if they weren't sent to a combat zone but they've been diagnosed with PTSD or anxiety or some kind of emotional disorder, do you think that could be something that they could kind of have a fine line between, like, whether or not the punishment for that crime is going to be severe or not, or if it's going to be excused and tied to the PTSD or not, because he wasn't sent to a combat zone, so the PTSD technically couldn't be considered? Because I know that there's a fine line with that too.
There is a fine line between. All right, so PTSD is PTSD, no matter where you got
Thank
it.
you.
Right.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, I understand that, but
right,
what
because
I'm
it's
saying is,
traumatic.
go ahead.
Because it's a traumatic event that happened, right? All right, so for me, most of my PTSD is from Haiti. we weren't in a combat situation in Haiti, but it was called humanitarian security mission is what we were on, right? So we were there, we were guarding the bases, we were doing the QRF, the quick reaction force for the CBs that were building the schools and stuff. We had gunfire that was shooting over our heads at our tower. We saw, you know, burning bodies. We saw people being drugged behind vehicles with comm wire. Crazy stuff that a 19-year-old should never ever see, right? Um, so there's a lot of moral injury. So back then it was considered PTSD, not really moral injury, because they didn't know what that was. Now it's PTSD / moral injury. So when it comes to like the legislation, I can't even talk. You know,
Yeah,
putting law.
they can't really put that line, especially like my husband, he was a Marine vet and he never deployed, but he saw a guy get run over by a tank, his head ran over. He saw suicides, he almost got ran over. So where's the line? You can't
Yeah.
really have a line when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
just asked that because I know that the VA likes to, you know, when you try to go for that rating, a lot of veterans have a hard time trying to
opening up.
claim that because well, not even just opening up, but they have a hard time getting rated for PTSD because they may not have, you know, gone to a combat zone or been deployed outside of the U.S. And it makes it harder from what I've heard and from what I understand and from other veterans who have talked to me about it, who have not deployed out of the country for any reason. It's much harder for them to get that rating. And so if you were to get that rating, I was just kind of curious and wanted to pick your guys' brains about whether or not that could be something that the prosecution could potentially look at and say, okay, well, he has PTSD because he was deployed overseas, or he has PTSD because he was deployed to another country where he saw something traumatic, but he may not have been involved in any kind of combat. And if that might weigh in the decision making versus a guy who never deployed out of the country and has PTSD on his disability compensation record. And, you know,
Yeah, I still think with the law though. Okay, let's say depending on the crime. Like, all right, let's say you got a guy who is suicidal, right? He's friggin' hauling tail down the friggin' interstate. Cop pulls him over. He's bawling his eyes out, you know, saying, "Hey, man, I'm on the phone with the VA hotline right now. I'm suicidal. I want to, you know." They arrest him. For one, he was speeding, you know, well over, so reckless driving, whatever, not. So instead of basically with the legislation, what I think is what they're trying to say is, hey, let's get this guy in psych help, psych eval. If he needs to go back to the VA, he needs to go to the VA for treatment, right? Now, let's say Joe Blow goes down the street, decides, hey, I'm going to friggin' do a drive-by and shoots up the neighborhood. And then says, "Oh well, I got PTSD," but yet he's not showing any signs of it.
mhm.
So I think that's kind of where you draw the line, depending on, you know, like you've seen the videos that are out there where veterans are in their vehicles, they're friggin' bawling their eyes out. They're saying, "Hey, I'm going to hurt myself," or whatnot. And you got some great cops out there that are, you know, veterans or been on the force for a really long time, and they save that person's life instead of putting a bullet in them, right? Um, that's kind of where I guess that law would come into play, um, depending on the situation, I would assume. So,
But
Ty,
see,
you,
even sorry.
I was going to say Ty's been awful quiet down here, so I want to hear his wax poeticness.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys are talking, to go back to the original argument of the veteran in Vermont, it seems like from all the things and arguments, you know, I don't want to speculate. I've said on our show that I think most police officers should be more educated. Definitely don't defund the police, but refund the police and reinvest into training them to deal with a lot of things that are going to happen. Because I'm writing notes here. We've been at war for 20 plus years with the global war on terror, and now we're going into a whole different kind of warfare with, you know, the drones that are coming in. So imagine the PTSD that's going to be coming from this. So obviously our legislation needs to be looked at in order to ease the political pressure on the VA to get the help that the veterans need, for the actions that they took over the last 20 years. I mean, ever since Vietnam, it seems like we're afraid to really talk about all the psychological things that our veterans go through and the treatments that they have to get when they come back. And the political pressure, I think Travis can agree, is thus that it makes it very hard for them. So they do turn a lot of things away. It may seem like they don't care, but unfortunately, our care is political. And I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I've had I joke a lot of times I was a recruiter's wet dream. I had a great career, and everything I've ever done with the VA has been amazing. The care I've received since I got out in 2017, top notch. But obviously, to get back to Travis's thing, so we can move forward and I can stop waxing poetic. With Travis's thing, what concerns me is if there's a precedent set that they're not going to look at this because, the VA is not going to step in because it's criminal, civilian criminal. For God's sake, if somebody hears about this, the local congressman should be screaming on the news. They should take care of veterans. We're in a different class. I don't say we're preferred at all. That sounds terrible, but we did defend the country, went through a lot of things. We need the care we earned by serving. And I don't think that's preferable. So for them to set a precedent of not wanting to show veteran preference, well, that right there shows you that the laws make these people have no backbone sometimes, or no leg to stand on. No pun intended.
Hey, Travis, I wanted to ask what is the plan moving forward with him? Like, what's the next steps that they're taking for him to try and get the resources that he needs, or try to get the VA to take responsibility for some of that?
I got to find out about the VA angle because I really don't know. I got to ask the family about it, and you have to understand that his sister and cousin really don't understand the military side of things. They are looking at this from this is our family member, and his cousin is like, when you hold this up to the Department of Homeland Security's definition of domestic terrorism, it falls flat. It was the criteria for that are not there. So the family is concerned that the prosecution is going to want to try to get him to take a plea deal so they save face, which means they're going to want his firearm license. They're going to, right? And the family wants the charges dropped. And you read the judge's position, if he goes up in front of a jury of his peers, this is not going to go forward. Like the entire town is coming out for this guy. So what the family is trying to do is just get eyeballs on this. Whether you agree with it or not, at least understand that this actually happens to people. Justice is blind. And, to the point about the law, hiding behind the law. Well, a lot of people are like, well, the law has to run its natural course. I'm like, well, yeah, I get that. But also, there are very real consequences if this prosecutor gets her way with this. And these kinds of things that we've been told, all of us, for the last 10, 15 years, call 988, ask for help, talk, journal. When I was getting my leg, rehab, they want me to journal that. Maybe I should have, but I'm like, if you as law enforcement can come in and scour my computer and my handwritten journals and conflate that to domestic terrorism, I ain't writing a thing. I don't care who you are. And the downstream effects of this being used in probate court, other types of legal situations, all I'm asking anybody, like I asked last month, is just look at the interviews I've done, look at the newspaper. They're kind of not really, but they're kind of trying to be in the middle of the road, and tell me if this is passing the sniff test. And when people take a look at it, it's like, wait a minute, unlike he didn't do anything wrong, he didn't want to hurt anybody, and he's still alive. This should be like, hey, the process actually worked.
We should be celebrating, because at the end of every show, I talk about 988. So
it saved his life.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm asking for is you don't have to agree with me. You don't support me. And the only reason I say is because I've had some people be like, I'm not touching this.
Yeah.
I'm like, fine, but this is why I'm touching this.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I got
great,
you, buddy.
great work, Travis, man. That's
Yeah.
been motivating. You've always been a leader and you got a voice. So I know when you put this stuff out on social media, that sweet voice is going to be talking about it too.
Well, just look at it, and then if you like it, repost it. If you have an opinion about it, tell me what it is, because last month, what the VA tried to take some of our benefits, and all of a sudden 4 million veterans decided in the United States, no, you're not.
That's right.
And in less
Yeah.
than 10 days, they reversed their decision. So we are powerful when we come together, and we finally got some guys to actually do this. Marie, you're here because of programs like this. I want to see that trend continue. So I'm calm down now. I'm okay. Calm down.
Well,
Travis,
let's.
I agree. You're doing great things. You're doing God's work for JJ and his family. I don't believe that legislation is going to pass for this, for a PTSD. That's a ridiculous thing to try to pass as a law because it's too broad. There's too many avenues within there. People would start pulling it out. There's so many people that fake PTSD to get the ratings. And then there's people that are actually totally messed up beyond repair that can't get the help because of those people. And that's with every diagnosis we get in the VA. But putting a diagnosis like that on a legislation will not happen because no lawmaker wants to put their name on that. And then in this case, I believe, I don't know when the election is for that prosecutor's office. That's probably why they pressed the charges, because they thought they'd get votes. And then when they seen it wasn't going to happen, they stepped away. And that happens in a lot of prosecutor offices across this country all the time. When the wave of election is coming, I'm not sure when Vermont's seat is for that county specifically, Orleans County. But just reading all the stuff on there, it seems like it was a politically based thing to try to get those votes and try to get that angle in there, as this is the midterm election year. Let's try to get some votes in there to get stuff. But I'm not sure if the prosecutor's office is involved with that. As far as JJ, this case will be a precedent, will be studied in law schools as it goes forward, because this is not something that you see every day. Yes, veterans get accused of stuff all the time, and things happen, bad things happen to good people all the time. But this is a case where we're going to learn a lot of lessons, and your voice out there and helping the Millett family and his extended family. And I was reading all the articles on the city while you were talking, and how they're all banding together, and even the cities around it are banding together to go against this. So it's going to be hard, even if they try to seat a jury in this case, to have a jury that's not biased, because they're all going to
the prosecution thought about, hey, we'll just move this different county, and they found out real quick. Vermont's a small state, but it's a small state for a reason. So
Yeah.
Thanks for the support, guys, and we've got other people to talk to, and I just feel like you said, Rich, we're going to learn a lot of lessons out of this. So thanks, David, for letting us talk about this tonight.
Yeah, always. I mean, I'm here. I got your 6, that. So that's why I definitely wanted to talk about that tonight. Because we brought it up on the last Tip of the Spear, and I've been following, the journey, the JJ story since you talked about it, and it's going to set one heck of a precedence if they do wind up charging him, and he goes and serves prison time. It's going to throw the whole veteran community out of sync. So it just drives me bonkers, man. So yeah, I got you, brother. Michael, you've been quiet up here, man. What do you think about what you've heard?
Kind of boiling over here. It makes me really angry. It makes me sad. I've had my own experiences with 988, and it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, saving lives, which it needs to, but on the other hand, it definitely can make things worse for people. I've called 988, and the people on the other end, are not trained and have, they're volunteers, so they're working from home, and you just hear like kids screaming in the background, and you're like, man, I'm freaking out right now, and now I can hear your kids screaming, and it's just like it can really easily make things much worse. Just hearing about the whole process, it's terrifying. it really is frightening and just adds to like a level of anxiety when you think about how quickly something can go from just bad, a panic attack or an anxiety attack, to being locked in a facility and your rights being stripped away and being prosecuted for something. And it hurts, and it hurts me to think about it, and it makes me emotional to think about somebody right now sitting somewhere dealing with that, with the Department of Justice and the whole process. It freaks me out, and it's just kind of, now I have to like calm myself down a little bit here.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, let's move on to a different subject. So, recently in the news at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, somebody shot up the place, shot a Secret Service guy. Now, looking at all the videos that have surfaced, right?
That dude zoomed past security, by the way.
Right, he did. I mean,
Fast fellow.
but what is really funny about the videos that have been shared, they took JD Vance out first. How in the heck did they get him out before the president? All right, so something's wrong there. And then there was another video after Trump was taken off stage. He was behind the curtain looking back on the stage. Now, if there was an active shooter, why in the heck is he still there? Why is he not somewhere more secure? Right? Because there could have been other people there wanting to shoot the place up. Why didn't they take him somewhere more secure other than right behind the curtain? So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
I don't necessarily think that it's a conspiracy theory that you hear like the conspiracy theories that are going on about it, where it's like, oh, it was rehearsed, or it was a ploy, and this and that. There's no way that any of us can really prove that concretely. So I don't necessarily think that it was rehearsed, or it was a skit to get, whether it be public sympathy or whatever they are being accused for aiming for. I do agree with the whole, like, it looks fishy and it seems fishy because of the whole JD Vance getting out first. And in the pictures and videos, you can't see JD Vance kind of peeking around. So Lord knows where they took him. And then if Trump was, I didn't know that Trump was behind the curtain peeking out. That's news to me. But if that's the case, that seems a little fishy also. And also the first video that I saw, like I said, the dude zoomed past multiple Secret Service agents. Like, I don't know how that would happen. And not only that, but you hear that he had gone and checked into the hotel the day before with like a bag full of his firearms, and then he assembled everything in his room. And then, but when the president of the United States and his cabinet are going to be there, like the two most important people in the government right now, the president and the vice president, are going to be at this hotel the very next day, you're going to want to do very thorough security checks, especially if they're going to be staying the night at that hotel. Like, how anybody was allowed, that wasn't going to be part of that correspondence dinner, was allowed to stay at that hotel overnight blows my mind. I don't understand how that even works. But I'm kind of on the fence about it, because I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Trump hater either. I'm kind of just in the middle. I just want America to do better, like, as a whole. I don't really care what side. But I don't know. I see a lot of the hate and the things coming from the left mostly. You know, I saw a TikTok of some like 45-year-old blonde Karen mom, like, it's a white suburban mom, and she was like, one day, we're gonna wake up and we're gonna roll over and check our phones, and we're gonna see that headline, and she's talking about Trump being, and she's like, and it's gonna be glorious, and like, she had that crazy, like, liberal, wide-eyed, like, just that crazy look. and that kind of stuff divides the country so much. And if it is, a skit or some kind of rehearsed thing, it's doing the opposite that they would have wanted it to do. But I mean, I just think it's getting old, and this whole left versus right thing, it's nonsense. And you know people are losing their American. I guess that's the only way that I can say that. Hopefully that makes sense. Is like people are losing that American patriotism, where it's like, 15, 20 years ago, we never would have thought that somebody would have gone online and made a post about how happy they would be if the president was assassinated.
Yeah.
And it's like now you see that all over the place, because it's Donald Trump and Orange Man bad. You know what I mean? So like, it's caused such a huge divide that I don't even. It disgusts me, the kind of responses that I see from the general public. Whether you like the guy or not, he's our president. And as a veteran, I know I'm kind of biased. We respect our commander in chief, and we carry out the orders that the commander in chief sets. And that's just kind of one of those things that was beaten to our heads. So we're kind of biased in that sense. But I just think it's kind of sad, and it's a little frustrating to watch. And I just hope it gets better.
Amen. Amen.
On your
So-
point about JD Vance getting pulled out first and Trump second, remember they're two separate teams completely. They're not the same team. Each one of them has their own protective detail. And JD Vance's is probably much better because he's younger, so they work a lot faster. And they go to him. The president probably told his guys to stay back unless the bullets are firing or something, because he wants more clicks or something. I don't know what his mindset is when it comes time to get the likes and love and stuff. But
Crazy.
JD Vance's team is a lot faster and much better at their job. You've seen this during the campaign last year with the fist raised shot, or 2 years ago now, and then now with JD Vance. The two teams are light years apart from each other in their training. And as far as people staying in the hotel, when there's an event like this, the VIP team goes in there first. So you'll have EOD dudes, you'll have Secret Service dudes, you'll have Delta or whatever tier 1 dudes are in there on the security detail at this time. They'll secure the parts of the place where they're going to be. FBI might check the guest list and see if there's any flags. That they're not going to go to rooms and check people and stuff like that, especially when I think it's probably 2 levels down in the basement in the Hilton in DC where the ballrooms are. It's either 2 or 3 levels down from ground level where the ballroom is. So they probably did everything from surface level down to check all that stuff. And then they should, when that dude sprinted by him, someone should have tackled him.
Yeah.
Like, oh my, look at this dude running. Oh my, this dude running has a gun. Oh my, we better do something. But
yeah,
all that was comical. It was almost like Keystone Cop kind of thing. And it comes down to security at that point. And I don't think the way the layers are, for him to get into the ballroom would have been next to impossible, but where it happened was pretty close enough. It was close enough.
yeah. All right, guys. It's 8:00. I know some of you guys got things you got to get taken care of. I think I'm gonna end the show a little bit different tonight, just because we recently had Sailor Jerry on the show. If you don't know who she is, you need to go check her out. SailorJerryMusic.com. We had her on, and this song that I'm getting ready to do the video of went super viral. What happened there?
Hey, Willis, before you get started, I do have to tend to some things. So I am going to have to get out of here. There's some things I got to take care of and wrap up and do before I go get the wife from work tonight. So it was good seeing everybody.
Yes, sir. We'll talk soon, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, I followed you on Instagram and TikTok. So I'll definitely be keeping up, and best of luck for your future endeavors on that.
Thanks, man. Nice to meet you. I'll follow you back on there too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Have a good night.
See you.
All
right. So we recently had Sailor Jerry on the show. She's a Navy veteran. The song that I'm going to play is the Veterans Hallelujah. I don't know if you guys seen it or heard it, but it's an amazing song. She says she can't take credit for it. because she didn't write the original song and the music for it, but yet she rewrote it for veterans. So take a listen to it. And then I'm going to end the show right afterwards. So you guys stay safe out there. We got your 6.
You packed your bags and shut the door. You crossed the sea to fight a war. You didn't know just what would happen to ya. Stepped in the dirt, boots on the ground, and gunfire was the only sound. And to yourself you whispered hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Every day and every night you walk the walk, you fight the fight. You never saw the end in sight, now did ya? The days are washing a haze of red, the blood, the mud, too many dead. Your weary soul was crying hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Too late to help you hear a shot. You know you're in a deadly spot. You never thought the day would come, now did ya? Your brother falls down to the ground. The enemy is all around, and from your lips you scream a hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. You fought the fight till it was done. You have the strength to carry on. You thought it'd be much better back home, did ya? You try each day, keep pushing through, but the battle lives inside of you. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Suggestions and comments